Today I'm going to be going through with you guys 16 of my daily trainers from lightest to heaviest. Now for me, a daily trainer is something that I can use for everything, but predominantly zone 1 and zone 2 work. So for me, that's easy and moderate miles, in particular zone 2 stuff. There are a few shoes in here that just break that mold slightly, but I wanted to drop them in here because I think the weight thing is more important to showcase, because I've got some really light shoes and some really heavy shoes, and I want to show you where they all fit in to my rotation. So without further ado, let's start with the sub 300 gram category. And we kickstart with the Saucony Kinvara at 14. Now this has been a bit of a staple workout shoe for me in the summer, but also plenty of zone 2 work as well. So this is the epitome for me of a daily trainer. I could run easy in it, I could run moderate, zone 2 stuff and do workouts. This really is what I'm looking for, although albeit maybe just lacking slightly on the cushion side of it, and I would choose another more highly cushioned shoe maybe for those recovery days. Overall, if I'm looking for something that can do it all, this is a really good option. 274 grams or 9 ounces. And the Brooks Hyperion Max is up next, 270 grams or 9.5 ounces. So again, extremely featherweight in terms of all the other shoes that you're about to see. Again, this is the epitome of daily trainers, probably more so than the Kinvara, a little bit more stack height, a little bit more cushioning. Although it's a firmer shoe, this is something that I have done absolutely everything in, from easy runs, moderate runs, tempo runs, progression runs, long runs, workouts, long run workouts, absolutely everything. Bar racing in it, this thing covers it all. And this, out of all the shoes, for me is just the best daily trainer that I can showcase today. Although it's last year's model, I'm excited to test out some new Brooks stuff this year. This one comes in a super lightweight package. And just squeaking in is the Hoka Max 6, 297 grams or 10.4 ounces. So this one just squeezes in there, but this is a wonderful shoe, very recent, very muddy, as you can see, fresh off this morning's 90-minute medium long run that I've done whilst I'm training for London Marathon, and it is absolutely fantastic. I am falling in love with this shoe. Not sure if the video will be live, but there should be a video on the extra channel in the next few days about this shoe. I've recorded some extra thoughts seemingly now as I put some more miles in it. Initial thoughts on this one, unlike the other one, is definitely easy miles. Moderate miles are great. Zone 1 and zone 2, you've got it covered. I definitely feel like I could get some tempo miles in this thing and probably marathon pace stuff. Not sure I could push the top end in it, unlike the other two. This category definitely lends itself to being able to push the pace, and probably the most versatile of all the categories, because obviously as you get heavier, it gets a little bit harder to push the pace in them. So there are some exceptions, there really are, but this one is a really good one, just probably going to lack that top end. Again, with Hoka, you know the drill. It's all about durability. How long will it last? Who knows? But for the moment, I'm absolutely loving it. So now we move on to the 300 to 330 gram category. I appreciate these numbers don't mean anything to you because I'm a UK size 13. Extremely large feet, but if you scale it all down, you can at least see the order in which these shoes are in. So it gives you an idea in your sizes which ones are lighter and which ones are heavier. So this one just squeezes into this one. It's nearly in the other one. 304 grams, 10.7 ounces. Now, if my memory serves me right, the Speed 3 was 287 grams, so that would have got itself in the other category, but this one has put on a bit of weight in this version. However, it's still a really, really enjoyable shoe, and touch wood, from early testing, it definitely feels like the heel slip issue that I had, and heel rubbing has disappeared. So very happy with that. Put some decent length runs in it now, and it has worked really well. Again, first plated shoe actually, nylon plate. You can see the wings of the plate here and here. Covers easy and moderate miles easily. I just wouldn't waste a shoe on easy miles. It's just too good for that. Definitely something I would reserve now where I can to do long run workouts, and definitely something where I would do more up tempo work in it. Something that, yeah, it's got the bases covered in the early stages, in the easier stages, but for me, something that I would push on for faster paces too. Again, another great jack of all trades shoe. The On Cloud Flow 4 comes up next, 321 grams, or I think it was 11.3 ounces, I think. It will be on screen. A surprise package for me last year, actually. This just missed out on the top 10, I think, or it just squeezed in. I can't remember most used shoes for last year. Really enjoy this one. I tested a few on shoes last year, and I've got to say, this one I found the most useful. And although it was a designed for up-tempo workouts, I found its sweet spot to be zone 2 moderate work. I took it on, I think it was a couple of really good long runs, maybe even a 2-hour long run. I've done other moderate work in it, plus I've done workouts. But again, it just showcases for me that zone 2 area this thing has got it covered. So again, another good jack of all trades shoe. You could do easy miles in it. Again, it's on the firmer side, but I found that the second you just started to pick up that pace to zone 2 stuff, it was absolutely wonderful. So again, this really ticked all the boxes for a daily trainer for me. Plus again, I could lace up and take it for a good workout. And the Hoka Mach X comes in at 326 grams or 11.5 ounces. Another shoe just like the On Cloud Flow 4 that marketed as a shoe that should be used faster, good quick workouts. You know, that's where we want this shoe, up-tempo shoe. I found its sweet spot to be moderate running. Once again, this thing rocketed to 100 miles, one of the fastest shoes I got to 100, and most of it was either moderate long runs or just moderate running in general. A couple of easy runs in there. I think there was a workout sprinkled in there, but overall this is a cruiser of a shoe, and my word, it makes you very, very efficient. Very comfy, great fit, wonderful midsole, a wonderful shoe that I would consider definitely putting back in my rotation for those moderate runs, those easier runs, not necessarily the top end stuff, but again, just if I'm looking for a daily trainer to go out there and log the easier end of the mileage, this is definitely not one that I would hesitate to look at. And finally, the Hoka Clifton 9, 330 grams, right on the border there, 11.7 ounces, I think. Sadly, this one had to be shelved just after 100 miles. I noticed the foam kind of went really quite flat in it, just getting close to the 100 miles, and it became very unenjoyable to run in, very flat, very firm. Just it didn't give anything back, completely the opposite to what it was in the beginning, which is a shame because it was a super comfortable shoe, and again, super lightweight, falls into this kind of second category for me, which is, if I'm honest with you, my favorite category. Yes, the lighter shoes are wonderful, but they are great for going a little bit faster, and this is where I would love to see more daily trainers just shave a bit of weight off. The next category is the biggest one, but for me, if a few of them can just sneak down into this one, and in my size just get sub 330 grams, we're talking about some real winners here. So super comfortable, very plush, really surprised looking at it, how chunky it is. It's so lightweight, just a shame about the foam. And now we get into the third and biggest category. This is sort of like 331 up to 360 grams in my size. And we kickstart with the Nova Blast, 332 grams. I think it's 11.9 ounces or roughly around there. So this one just is kind of on the cusp. First and only shoe in this video that's over 40 mil of stack in the heel. So this is very much, for me anyway, not necessarily a jack of all trades shoe, and you'll find as we go through the list that their ranges become a little bit less as they get a bit heavier. Very much zone 1 only for me. I tried a couple of moderate runs in it. I'm very inefficient in the shoe, very much a sink and bounce sensation, but more of the sink and a little bit less of the bounce. Didn't quite get on with this one as much as the Nova Blast 3, but yeah, overall very comfy. Does the job I need it to for the lower end stuff, but yeah, not quite for me this time. A better option in my opinion, the Puma Velocity Nitro 3, 36 mil of stack in the heel, 26, so not quite as max cushion as the Nova Blast, but still very comfy, and I prefer the foam in this shoe, if I'm honest with you. A very enjoyable shoe. Sadly, this is a shoe that I haven't been able to put more miles in since the testing, just more shoes in for testing, and this one hasn't seen the light of day since. One that again I think I'm going to get to the end of the year and regret not being able to put more in, but again a really solid, easy and moderate shoe. I believe I've put one of each in this shoe, and it was just enjoyable. Yeah, not quite a good moderate shoe. It doesn't have kind of like the rocker that just helps propel you forward. It is a softer foam, so you do sink and bounce, and you don't quite have that responsiveness as a shoe that might be geared up towards faster speeds, but 342 grams, so kind of in the mid-range of this category, it's still a really good option, much, in my opinion, comfier than a Nova Blast, a more enjoyable ride, and definitely a solid Zone 1 option. And the Saucony Guide 17, 346 grams, so this is more of a supportive shoe, but my word, this was really enjoyable. And again, I said in my first impressions video, I actually think I enjoy this one more than the Nova Blast. I am kind of erring towards more firmer foams these days. I do find that if I've got too soft a foam, like the Invincible and stuff like that, I do often suffer with ankle and shin and knee pains. It's just a bit too soft for me. I need something a little bit firmer, and this one is divine. It's not too firm. It does have a lovely responsiveness about the foam. It does feel like it rolls you through nicely. It does everything I want it to. It does pick up the pace nicely. It's definitely a good Zone 1 and Zone 2 option. I feel like the firmer the shoe, the better it is at picking up the pace. The softer the shoe, I definitely find it's geared towards more recovery. That's just my opinion anyway. But yeah, a really good option from Saucony. Saucony for the supportive people out there. And again, much lighter than a lot more shoes that you're about to see in this video. And in comes the Cumulus 25, 352 grams for this one. So getting towards the top end now. I love to see daily trainers 345 and below, 350 and below at a push. This one is just over, so we're now getting to the point where I always pick up a shoe, weigh it and go, oh, if only they could have just shaved off a few grams. But the Cumulus was just a stunning shoe for me. The only thing I'll say is I did get 100 miles in it. You can see a little bit of wear there on the heel collar. I had that with the Nova Blast as well. I only got just over 100 in it, so to see that at 100 isn't ideal, but in terms of how the shoe feels and the comfort and everything, this is rocking. This is a great shoe, and again, prefer it to the Nova Blast. Very keen actually to try and get the 26 maybe at some point. Would love to see how that compares. I heard a lot of you guys comment saying you preferred this over the Nimbus. It's a slightly slimmed down Nimbus, and again, I've said to you, I'm not a massive fan of those big puffy max cushion soft shoes. Max cushioning's fine, but they've got to be a little bit firmer for me. The big soft marshmallowy stuff I'm not interested in. This is marshmallowy soft, but it's lesser stack, so you don't have that absorbing sensation that you do with some of those bigger stack shoes. It's wonderful. It's really good. I really recommend this one. And now moving up to the top end of this section, 354 grams, the Triumph 21. I know the 22 is imminent at some point. Wonderful shoe. Power Run PB always sells it for, Power Run Plus always sells it for me. Such a lovely, what looks like a beaded foam. It is just sensational. The only thing for me, and you'll see in the shoe in a second, is that I just find the drop a little bit too harsh in this one. It is a 10mm drop. I'm not averse to 10mm drop shoes, but it is, someone actually commented and said it basically is an Ultra Boost. And yeah, I agree. It kind of feels like that big chunky heel. You can feel that as you're running this big heel, and you just think, oh, I just don't need quite as much of it here. But overall, if I take that out of it, I have put some great, easy and moderate runs in this shoe, Zone 1 and Zone 2. It ticks both the boxes. This isn't just a Zone 1 shoe. Despite the weight, it definitely can do both, and so again is a bit more versatile than some of the others we've seen. And then we've just got to look at the Ride 17, a potential shoe of the year for last year for me, or not necessarily a shoe of the year, but definitely would have been up there if I'd have had more time to test it. It would have been a finalist, I think, for sure. Wonderful shoe. 356 grams, so it is heavier, but surprisingly, this is the better option for me between the Triumph. It's an 8mm drop, 35/27, and this one works. And when I say it works, I mean I've done easy and moderate running in it, predominantly moderate running, and I've even picked it up to do some marathon efforts before as well in a long run workout, and it just worked so well. It did it. I hit paces, or I hit the right efforts, and it was great. So for a heavier shoe, this is the most versatile in this category, and I just wouldn't look past every other shoe I've talked about. I wouldn't look past this one at maybe trying. This one can do a little bit more than the others. It's definitely got that lower end range. It can definitely creep up to that marathon effort too. So Ride 17, this is a winner. And the last one in this category, the On Cloud Eclipse, 358 grams for this one. This is less versatile than the Ride 17, definitely just a Zone 1 runner, not a Zone 2. I tried a moderate run in it, didn't quite have that pick up the pace feel, but this was another stellar shoe from On. I've been really enjoying On shoes, as you've probably gathered if you watch my videos on them. I just find their attention to detail to be great. They're fantastic. The only thing I can sometimes find with On shoes, and this upper is better, but in the Stratus and the recent Monster 2 that I've tested, the uppers can be a little bit baggy. This is more dialed in, and if I could have this upper on the Monster, I think we'd be on to a bit of a winner. But overall, this is a lovely Zone 1 runner. Really enjoyed it, really comfortable. Again, on the firmer side, that works for me. I'm not looking for something marshmallowy soft. Super comfortable. Everything about this shoe ticked the boxes that I needed it to. And then we move into the heavyweight division, 360 grams and above. These boys are the heavy ones. And we start with the Monster 2. Surprisingly, although it is in the heavier category, 366 grams, it is more versatile than some of the others you're about to see. This one is very much a good Zone 1 and Zone 2 runner. I've done limited testing in it so far, but from what I have done, I really enjoyed it. It is responsive, just like what On do. This is a dual density midsole with a nylon speedboard. It does move you. I do find it responsive. When I say responsive, I mean as you land, what do you get back from the shoe? Does it respond? Does it propel you forward? Yes, this one does. So if you're looking for something a bit heavier that you can run nicely and easy in, but if you're looking on occasions to do some strides, or you're looking to do some zone 2 stuff, again, this one is there. It's absolutely brilliant and very, very comfortable, just like the Eclipse. And then we have the Ghost 15. This is the green silence version, so it's more recycled materials and stuff. 367 grams. Definitely getting up into the heavyweight division. Wasn't a huge fan of this one, if I'm honest with you. Midsole is just not particularly great. Again, it's that perfect density for me in terms of it's not too soft, but it doesn't have a lot of responsiveness. It doesn't give a lot back. You are kind of planting and then having to kind of just kind of like, you know, it doesn't give you a lot back. I think we'll just leave it there. But 367 grams, if you're looking for a shoe that sort of weight, you're very much looking at a ploddy type of shoe, zone 1 only. I did a 60-minute moderate run in this shoe. Heart rate went through the roof. I was pretty fit at the time. And yeah, it just didn't work out for me. It wasn't a huge fan of it. Didn't seem to want to move through the gears at all. So this one very much was a plodder. Same weight, better shoe, Brooks Ghost Max. So as opposed to the previous one, well, 367 grams. As opposed to the previous one, this is an enjoyable zone 1 runner. Again, not a zone 2. Didn't enjoy it on when I picked up the pace in it, but a much more enjoyable experience. Foam a little bit, because there's a little bit more of it, a little bit more enjoyable, a tiny bit more lively. Plus, it's now a 6mm drop as opposed to a 12, which the Ghost was. 12 is just a little bit too much for me. I very much feel like I'm standing on a slant board. This is a 6, much more in my range. My sweet spot is an 8. 10 at a push, but 8 is where I like it. 6 is good. The Hoka 5s are fine as well. 4 is pushing it a bit, but I still seem to get on with them well. But 6 is great, and yeah, this one is a much better option. So for me, if you were saying a Brooks Ghost, 15 or 16, or this one, I'd definitely say this one. And bringing up the rear, the On Cloud Stratus 3. So got this one last year, tested it. This one again was made for speed. This one was branded as you should be able to pick up the pace in it. And I'm not going to disagree. I picked up the pace quite a bit in this one. So again, out of this heavyweight division, I'd be surprised if the Monster could keep up with this shoe. And that's a funny thing to say, because the Monster is apparently a great mileage hog, which I'm going to be finding out because I'll be putting more miles in it. But this Cloud Stratus, I put some easy runs, some zone 2 stuff in it, and it dealt with it amazingly. Despite the weight, that just completely threw me. I flew round in this shoe and I picked it up even further. Did some strides in it, it completely responded. Again, we've got a speed board in there. Great midsole, again, on the firmer side, works well for me. So yeah, surprisingly, although it's the last and heaviest shoe, it is a little bit more versatile than some of the ones that we've seen. So I won't go through favourites and stuff in each category, but I just wanted to showcase the shoes from lightest to the heaviest. Now, don't let weight put you off. Yes, it's a little bit frustrating when some shoes kind of gain a bit of weight or lose a bit of weight, and I get frustrated with it personally as well, but sometimes a shoe just surprises you. The Ride 17 for me is a perfect example, on the heavier end of the spectrum in that third category, but can do marathon pace work better than a lot of the stuff in the second category, which is really surprising. But it all comes down to the geometry of the shoe, the way the shoe's set up, the midsole foam, everything. The Ride 17 is a complete package. The Stratus 3 that you just saw could handle moderate paces much better than some of the lighter shoes. It's just incredible. So what the trend seems to be is at the lighter end of the spectrum, their range is definitely a bit greater and a bit more up the ladder, whereas as we get heavier, obviously, naturally, there's going to be the range is slightly shorter. But all of these are great for daily use in terms of you've got that easy, moderate work in there. They can all handle it, or most of them can, and it's been a pleasure to test all of them. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you prefer in terms of weight. Do you go for the lighter shoes, the heavier shoes, or do you like to have a mixed bag? Do you save the heavier, more cushioned shoes for those recovery days and the lighter ones for your workouts, or are you just only looking for light shoes or just heavy shoes? It'd be great to hear from you. It's such a great topic to talk about. Do drop a comment and let me know down there. That's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, and of course subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and I'll see you on the next one.